Yo, what's up? John Mr. Smith here. Today I want to show you how my running setup works. I'm gonna show you all the technology, the sound creation, all the things I do live while running, and all the other things involved in the live techno running setup. So here we go. So how does it work? Well, I have two phones. The first phone runs Cubasis, that's a DAW, and on the other phone I'm running an app, Touch OSC, and in Touch OSC I made a template in which I can control all the things happening on the Cubasis phone. And I have a third phone which I use for streaming, and I have a GoPro which I use to live stream. The audio comes from this phone. This phone doesn't generate audio at all and is split into two signals. The one going into the GoPro and the other one is going to my in-ears. And everything is attached to this metal rod, which you can see I designed myself. I carry around a backpack holding this battery from Storm, the company which gave me this battery, and it powers the GoPro and the two phones. In Cubasis, I'm running what I call two decks, and one deck contains 8 synthesizers and about 5 drum computers. The 8 synthesizers each do their own part in the music. I have one for bass, one for chord sounds, one more like an arpeggiator, one for pads, one for lead. They each have their own function. All of them have these Moog type of synthesizer. This is a plugin inside Cubasis. It creates all my sounds. So all the sounds I make with this plugin. Inside the synthesizer there's a sequencer. The sequencer enables me to make rhythmical sounds out of the MIDI input. It repeats the note I play in a rhythmical way. They can play the chords or like an arpeggiator, which makes it far easier to create sounds rhythmically. Then I have a drum computer. It's the Hammerhead. It's a basic drum computer, but it has everything you need. It has 8 patterns which you can program. I programmed these on beforehand. Inside the drum computer I have 8 sounds, like a kick, snare, clap. These are the sounds which I created patterns with, and you can change the patterns using MIDI. I have 2 additional drum computers containing additional loops. I have a drum computer containing all the fill sounds, like the crashes, snare fills, sweep ups and sweep downs. I combine all the sounds in a bus. All the synth sounds go inside the melody bus, the kick and the bass, and all the drums go inside the bass and beats bus. And all that goes into a master bus. And on all these buses I have some processing as well. That's really nice about using a DAW. You can have some processing. Processing power is limited because I'm just using a phone. But I'm still able to have a limiter on the master, a multi-band compressor, some EQ. I use EQ on most of the channels, but only one EQ. I do have some send effects, so I have 4 send effects. So that's it for the Cubasis phone. And I'm controlling everything using my controller phone. And this is, I guess, more where the magic happens. In this app, I programmed all the functions which I use the most. On the top left, there's a button called filter, and it controls from the 8 synthesizers the filter. So in that way, I can easily control all synths and easily give far more energy and pull it back as well. So that's really nice. The second is a high pass and reverb on the master, so you can create some tension. You're floating into space, and then you can drop. The third fader is the bass fader, that's controlling the filter from the bass. And this is all for the first deck. So the controller app has 2 decks. Here you can switch between those decks. So the top 3 are for the first deck and the bottom 3 are for the second deck. I have 2 decks because I want to be able to mix between tracks. And I'm able to do that because I have everything duplicated. So I create a track using 8 synthesizers and about 4 drum computers. And then I have that whole setup duplicated so I can create the second track with another similar setup. And that allows me to keep on making new tracks, new sounds. I can switch presets between the drum computers in order to have new sounds, so the next track will sound very different. In order to allow the phones to communicate with each other, I set up a wireless MIDI network. When I go running, I turn on the hotspot of the streaming phone. I connect these 2 phones to the third phone. So they're on the same network. And when they're on the same network, I use this app MIDI network is called. So now I have set up a wireless MIDI network. So now they are connected. You can see that I can change the volumes in Cubasis with my app. I'm actually doing everything in Cubasis. This is only controlling that. So, and same for drums. These are controlling the drums volume. So you can easily change all the volumes of all the drums. This way I have a 16-channel mixer right here under my fingertips. That's really convenient, I think. And this part here controls the filter envelopes. So I wanted to emphasize certain synthesizers over other synthesizers. And this allows me to do that. This changes the filter envelope. Then I'm controlling the drum patterns here. Inside the Hammerhead app, you can switch between drum patterns. So it changes the patterns on the drum computer. That enables for me to switch between drums easily. I found out that I'm mostly using certain patterns with certain sounds. I thought I'd program them and make it easy to create drops, because it can be quite hard to do all the things at the same time. So at certain point you have to limit yourself in order to make it easy to switch and turn on kicks, claps, and all those kind of things. And this one is for the fill sounds. There are sweep downs and snare fills and sweep ups and crash sounds, which I use to create energy or just create drops. So that's how the front end works. After some trial and error, these are the faders I put in front, because I found that menu diving, going deeper inside an app, really takes away your creativity. So everything you want to be able to control right away, you have to put in the front of your screen, so the first screen. I think most of these knobs are quite essential. And then we come to the MIDI inputs. So this is for inputting the melodies. You can see here the 7 basic chords for a certain key. If I press this button, then 4 notes are being pressed, the root note of the chord and the chord itself. And these are being inputted to 6 of the 8 synthesizers. I found that this is the most easy way to make chord progressions, because I found that mostly you're using the same chords for different instruments. Your pads want to play the same chord progression as your arpeggiator, for example. And the bottom row is for leads, so that's where I play the lead melodies. That's why I have 2 rows, because I found that most leads are within 2 octaves. And then I have all 12 keys, and they are arranged in the circle fifth. And that made it easy for me to change to the next key. When I'm DJing mostly in the circle fifth, going up, not in the circle fourths. Find that less energetic than the circle fifths. And then there is the more advanced tab. So in this tab you can control all the elements of the synthesizers, of each of the synthesizers. All knobs have been MIDI programmed. This was quite a lot of work, but in the end I tend not to use it that often. I just open Cubasis because I can control all other stuff still with my phone. I'm also using different MIDI channels in order to output MIDI to a certain synthesizer. I found that quite useful. It enables you to filter which MIDI should go where, and also the drum computers have their own MIDI channel. Things don't accidentally go to the wrong drum computer and stuff like that. And then I'm using the GoPro as a live stream and recorder. I've tried a lot of cameras, also tried the Insta360, but I really like the image stabilization of the GoPro. It's really stable. I really like this dongle as well. How are you gonna output audio to several destinations without using a mixer? That for me was at some point a question. Currently I have this audio splitter. It's just a jack splitter. I use that as a mixer. When I'm adjusting volume on the phone which outputs the music, there's a limiter inside the GoPro which causes that the normal output is the same every time. So that's quite nice. So there is some limiting going on in GoPro, but I kind of like it. I mean, if you listen to live sets of DJs, mostly they capture environmental sounds as well, and there's also some limiting going on. I also really like that the GoPro has a function to record and live stream at the same time, so you always have a good recording of your live stream. let's talk about the limitations. There are quite some. In Cubasis, mostly I use like an 8-bar loop or 4-bar loop. All the synths are quite limited as well, so I have to take in account that I don't have that much processing power, and everything has to be live and quite low latency as well, because I have to control it quite fast. So I just have some basic EQ on some of the channels. So mostly I use a channel strip, which I really like. It has a high pass and low pass filter on it, some nice drive and distortion, which I really like. There's a compressor in there. It does a lot of processing for little processing power. I use the Waves Q10 or like a basic EQ. I use the Flux for sidechaining, also for transgating to easily create transgates. The synths are really basic, so there are 2 oscillators and a noise oscillator, and that's about it, I guess. Only one type of filter, only a filter envelope, only one ADSR for amplitude, one LFO, one chorus and one delay, and that's it for creating sounds. Yeah, you're quite limited, but that also pushes you to be creative. The drum computer is also quite limited. Yeah, it's just a really basic drum computer. It has some nice shuffle and a bit of distortion as well in it. Don't use that much compression as well. You can do some more advanced programming inside with another view. So you have 8 sounds, but there's also a way to import loops, and there's a drum synth in here. I use the drum synth for kicks. It's quite good, I think. Yeah, then I use some sound effects like a basic reverb and stereo delay, which just puts everything in a room. So if I take down a sound, it still sounds a bit, yeah, so most of the time you just want to ease it out. When you're doing a snare fill, you want to cancel it when you're doing a drop, and I found that I sometimes forgot, because you have to press 4, 5, 6 buttons in about 2 seconds in order to create a drop, and if you forget one, then your snare fill keeps on rolling during the first climax, which is really annoying, and you never want to have a snare fill on the drop. If I press the climax button, it also presses the fill cancellation. The synth bus, I adjusted the EQ just to your ears. A sawtooth is perfect, right? But your ears are more sensitive in certain areas, so you just have to put the curve of the sensitivity of your ears, the inverse of that, in the synth bus, and then you're mostly good to go. I am using some scripts for the fills. I'll probably show that in another video. I wanted to make live music on a daily basis, and I was running daily, so I thought making music while running would enable me to make music daily. And I also felt the urgency of creating new stuff while running. When I'm at home behind the synths and everything, I found that you tend to tweak way more, to get stuck in loops. When you're running, you always have the feeling like you have to create new stuff. You're just full of adrenaline and you keep on going. And when you're at home, you can feel kind of relaxed and just snoozing away a bit. It really creates that urgency of creating something new. I'm really seeing this as my instrument. I really like that the interface is changeable. The advantage is that you can change when you have new ideas or want to work in a different way. If you have a hard button controller, you're limited to that. Mostly I find that too limiting. I found that create my own interface has been really a step in making it in the way I want to. But the downside is that the position of knobs change. So you can have this finger routine. You memorize where the buttons are based on position, and if you have physical controller, the knob is always there and you can feel the knob, so you can control it without looking. But here you always have to look, so that's the downside. Making the music on a daily basis really helped me develop my sound, the quality of music, and also the direction and expression. Is really nice to do that on a daily basis. So this is my running setup explained. It's quite a long story. If you like to see more about the running setup, there are more videos about that. Check out my live streams. There you can see and hear what I'm explaining here. Thanks for watching and see you next time.